You go in to interview for your dream job. You've done everything right. You've done the research. You're wearing the right outfit. You've already connected with your future boss on LinkedIn. And it's obvious in the interview because they are loving you. They're asking all questions that you know the answers to. You are answering perfectly and succinctly. You're cracking jokes. You're connecting with this boss on a level that you've never connected with another human being before on. But then you don't get the job, and you don't know why. Don't worry, that's why I'm here. I'm about to tell you everything that recruiters judge you for that you probably had no idea you were being judged on. Starting off strong with resumes, there's probably a million videos that I could make just on creating the perfect resume. So if you have any specific questions, definitely let me know in the comments and I can do a deep dive on those for you. But to keep things very simple for this video, right now, pause this video and go check what your resume file name is. If I had $1 for every resume titled resume, I could quit my job. Like, it's so ridiculous. So what I would recommend, rather than just labeling it resume, because I know it's a resume, you don't have to tell me, is your first and last name. Very simple. My name is Tessa Tricarco. Hi, nice to meet you. And if I was applying for a job, I would have Tessa Tricarco resume. Even better, if you really want to zhuzh it up and make your recruiter happy, which you probably want to do, I would also put the job title that you are applying for in that file name. They already know what company you're applying for. It's the company that they also work at, so you don't need to waste any space with that. But I would put Tessa Tricarco, job title, resume. And I think that that's perfect. It's simple. What you don't want to do is just label it resume, because then you're gonna get lost in the sea of other resumes and your recruiter will never be able to find you again. What I also don't want to see is just something completely random. I personally have never experienced anything too bad. I have seen a couple like keyboard smash .pdfs as resumes, which is just not professional, but it's not inappropriate. I have heard from a couple of my previous coworkers that they have seen things like I hate my life .pdf, or like another stupid job.pdf. Definitely don't do that. Recruiters can see the file name, make their life easier by keeping things organized for them. First name, last name, job title, resume. That's all it needs to be. The next thing recruiters are judging you for is your email etiquette. And not just your typed written emails. Obviously you want to make sure that you have proper grammar, that you're being polite and succinct, but your actual physical email name needs to be professional. So what I recommend, again, very simple, first name, last name, at Yahoo, Gmail, Hotmail, whatever you choose, doesn't matter. Just your first and last name, that's all it needs to be. Nothing crazy, please, I beg you, please, seriously. Because I have seen the craziest email names ever that I would personally be so mortified if a recruiter ever saw. Obviously, I'm not going to give you the actual contact information of people's emails that I have seen, but using synonyms, here are a couple of the more atrocious ones that I have come across in my time as a recruiter. curvywoman123@gmail.com, badgirl409@gmail.com, blackheart@gmail.com, immortalsoul@gmail.com, my personal favorite, lilhuddy100@gmail.com. Like, okay, there's a time and a place to be creative. It's not in your email name. You know, your Instagram handle, sure, curvywoman123, I don't care. But for your email that you are applying to a job with, please be professional. I would just really recommend you at least get your first name in there. Because when I go to reach out to you, whether I'm emailing you to set up an interview or I am emailing you to offer the job, I am just going to type your name into the email search bar. And my computer is most likely going to have the memory of when you submitted your resume, and it's gonna pull your email straight up. So I'm going to type in your name, thinking that that's what your email is under. Now, if your email is under curvywoman123, typing your name is not going to come up. At least have your first name in your email, and then after that, it doesn't really matter, just please keep it professional. Moving forward with emails, this is something that I personally never would have thought of until I came across it myself. So I'm sure that it is also a surprise to you. Your email profile picture must be professional. And if it's just a simple headshot of yourself, that is great. That's probably preferred. Or if you don't have an email profile picture, that's also completely fine. I'm not telling you that you have to go take a professional photo shoot and upload an image of yourself. Just don't use an image if you don't have a nice one. A couple of months ago, I interviewed a candidate. I actually offered them the job. I thought that they had good experience for what I was looking for, and I go to email them the onboarding. I immediately respond to that email and say, I apologize for the miscommunication. We have actually decided to withdraw your acceptance. Why? Because their email profile picture, to my surprise, was a cartoon version of themselves throwing up some very inappropriate hand signs. And could I have told that person that they needed to change their profile picture and they changed it in 2 seconds? Sure, I could have done that. But if you're the kind of person that isn't thinking these things through, then you're the kind of person who isn't thinking other things through, and I'm not your babysitter, I'm not your mom, and I don't want to have to stress myself out with making sure that you're doing everything appropriately, so I just withdrew the acceptance. Some other examples of profile pictures I have seen that have been all right are pictures of nature, if you want to put like a flower or a beach as your profile picture. I've even seen things like dogs or sports teams that these people root for. Those are okay. They're not my favorite, and I would probably prefer it just be a picture of yourself or no picture at all, but it's certainly better than being something inappropriate, so it's just something to think about. Consider the job that you're applying for and how professional you think they are. If you're in high school, you're applying to work in an ice cream shop, it's probably okay to have the Padres as your profile picture for your email. But if you are applying for a high up position in corporate America, it needs to be a nice headshot. In addition to the email, recruiters are also going to be reaching out to you via phone call. And chances are you might not pick up the initial time that they call you. And that's totally fine. I don't expect you to. But what I do expect is that if you are applying to jobs, that you have cleared out your voicemail box. I get so frustrated when I call people to schedule an interview and it goes straight to voicemail, and then I can't even leave a voicemail. So right now, pause this video again, go clear out your voicemail inbox and make sure that recruiters can actually reach you. Because I promise these are not the kind of people that you want to be playing hard to get with. And then in line with your voicemail inbox being full, because I'm sure that you won't be able to pick up the phone every single time. And again, that's reasonable. But you need to have an appropriate voicemail intro set up so that they feel like they do want to continue reaching out to you, even though they can't immediately connect with you. A perfect voicemail intro would be something along the lines of, "Hi, this is Tessa Tricarico. I'm sorry that I can't get to the phone right now. Please leave a message after the beep and I will give you a call back as soon as possible. Thank you." That's as simple as it needs to be. It's effective, it's polite, and it's professional. What I don't want to see, and that this has actually come up a couple of weeks ago from one of my coworkers, is one of those voicemails from like the early 2000s where the person was like, "Hello? Hello? I can't hear you." And then my recruiter friend was on the other line like, "Hi, can you hear me now? Oh, I just changed my Wi-Fi. Can you hear me? Hello? Hello?" And then they were like, "Hello? I can't hear you. Ha ha. Gotcha. Leave a voicemail." I don't want to be pranked if I'm trying to offer you a job, okay? Just be appropriate. Don't try to be funny, especially if you know you're applying to jobs. Please check. If you're not applying to jobs, if you just think that it's going to be your friends and family calling you, I don't care what you do. I really don't. But if you are actively looking for a job and you are sending out your phone number to possible recruiters, be appropriate. I've also seen some things like no voicemail intro at all set up, and I think that's fine if you just want it to be the machine telling the person to leave a message. I'm okay with that as long as they actually can leave a message. What I don't like is when it's the machine and then the voicemail box is also full, because that just shows me you don't care at all and that you're not checking up on these things. If you've made it this far and you're starting to think back about some other interviews you've had and you're worried that they haven't gone that well, don't worry, you're not alone. Check out this video to hear about my personal worst interview experience ever. The next thing that recruiters could potentially be judging you for, and I admit I have never done this because I actually find it a little bit mean, but I did learn about this in business school back in college, is that if you are going into an interview that is on a Zoom call and it is only going to be from here up, then you need to look professional from here up. I think that that's valid. I agree with that. I would judge you if you didn't look professional from here up. But something that my professor told me is that she has encountered some recruiters that actually ask you to stand up. And that's just to check to make sure that you aren't wearing pajama pants underneath the Zoom screen. Now, I've never done that. I find it a little bit invasive and just kind of mean. If what you're showing me in your Zoom screen is professional, why do I need to see anything outside of that? I feel like that's like asking you to take me on a tour of your house. Like, I don't care what else anything looks like. If what I'm seeing is professional, that's enough. But I guess some recruiters do that. So something to think about if you are going into a Zoom meeting, make sure that you look nice from head to toe. It's also something to consider that if you look good, you're gonna feel good and then you're gonna do good. So definitely dress the part just so that you can kind of trick yourself into thinking that you are right for the job and then you're gonna present yourself in that way. I actually talk a lot about this mindset in this video if you wanna hear more about it. Something else that I learned in business school is that recruiters are judging your car. And this is something that I did not take seriously, but I admit, I was wrong. Recruiters are looking at your car, and that's something to take into consideration. Obviously, I'm not telling you that you need to go out and buy a new BMW in order to get a nice job. That would be crazy. But your car does need to be clean, and it does need to be well kept because it is just another representation of yourself and your responsibility. There's a giant dent in the side of my car. There's nothing I can do about that. I bought my car when I was 19. That's the car that I could afford. I'm not worried about things like that. But I also just recently moved and I have a ton of trash bags full of clothes in the back of my car. Now that is something that I would take out if I was going into interview in person because I wouldn't want a recruiter to see that. And I don't really think that recruiters are stalking you and they're gonna be looking in your car window while you're sitting in the lobby waiting for the interview, but it is totally possible that one of them could walk you out to your car at the end of the interview if it went really well, or if it's late at night, or if they're just polite and they wanna make sure that you make it back to your car. And they could look through a window accidentally and see a mess, and we want to avoid that. I actually did have a personal experience with this. The recruiter didn't actually look inside of my car, as far as I know, but the recruiter did watch me try to park, which is humiliating. So I would also recommend that you maybe scope out the parking lot like the day or the night before, just so that you're kind of incognito and that the recruiter isn't looking out their office window watching you try to park. Because when I went in to interview for my current position, actually, I'm super happy at this company, it all worked out, but I was driving circles around that parking lot trying to find a spot, and I could not find one. So I ended up going out and finding street parking a couple streets away from the business building and walking into my interview. But then once I did start the interview, it was really embarrassing because the manager ended up walking me out to the back lot, which I didn't know existed, and he was being very kind by showing me that there was extra parking, but it was so obvious that he had seen me struggle. So that is also something that recruiters are potentially judging you for, or at least looking at. The last thing that recruiters are judging you for are the quality of the questions that you ask at the end of your interview. I think that it's really important that you have several questions prepared going into an interview. Don't just prepare one to ask at the end. It's possible that your recruiter could answer that question throughout the interview, and then if you ask it at the end, it's gonna look like you weren't paying attention. So I really think it's important that you have options. Also, because I really encourage you to ask questions throughout the interview. Don't just wait until the end when they prompt you to have any questions. I think that asking questions throughout really keeps the interview conversational, and it shows that you're really engaged and interested in the job and learning more about it. One of my personal favorite questions as a recruiter to hear asked in an interview is, what are the next steps? Not only because it shows that you're interested, you're engaged, and you want to move forward with the position, but it also makes my job easier. Because at the point where I'm asking you if you have any more questions, I'm about to go into next steps anyway. The interview's mostly over, so by creating that transition for me, you just did me a favor. So thank you. I would definitely recommend asking that question at the end of your interview, but I would also recommend going onto the company website ahead of time, doing lots of research, and preparing several questions to ask throughout. These are all real life examples that I have experienced as a professional recruiter, and I want to make sure that you learn from my experiences so that you are more successful when you go into interview for your next job. Good luck.